My fucking word. Is it maybe gonna work now? Possibly. God bless it. I think we finally figured it out. I think we finally figured out a solution that will allow me to stream and charge my phone at the same time. It took long enough. Oh man, and the very first comment is somebody that just wants to spam. Very first person in the chat is a retard with a sub-room temperature IQ that just wants to spam. Good job. You're officially the most retarded ape on the internet right now. I got my Death Wish coffee over here. I love making iced coffees with it because it has such a wonderful flavor. Such a wonderful flavor. I try to get ahead out of this, but this kind of got rained on a little bit, so I don't even know if it'll hit. Maybe? Not really. But let's adjust things and let's try again. Worst that can happen is that one fails too. Hold on, let me switch to all chat because that's probably, yeah, that'll help me see messages. Make sure you guys hit that like button as you come in. Just hit you can either double tap the screen or I think there's a little button over here too. But every time you do, it really helps the channel because it promotes the stream to more people's algorithms, which increases the chances of more people participating in chat, which is the whole basis of these streams, you know? We're trying to have something like a conversation here, and that only works if we've got ample participation in chat. I decided not to include the Trump-Musk breakup in my title this time because as interested as a lot of the news media seems by it, I really haven't heard many people bring it up in my chat, you know? I haven't had that many people that want to talk about it, so I don't know. Maybe it's not as interesting to other people as it is to me, or as it seems to be to the rest of the media environment right now. To me, I mean, it's just, to me, it's got like a soap opera level of entertainment value to it, but I can understand why for other people it's perhaps more mundane. Train's coming. I want to get a hold of some more acid so bad. I didn't bother holding my ears that time because all the windows are closed in this unit right now. So I figured, like, you know, way less chance of any damage happening. It didn't sound harsh enough to make me plug my ears. So what are we going to talk about today, folks? Hold on, I want to make sure everything's working correctly. Alrighty, now let's see how well things work. Maybe they'll work a little better now. He just caught the Jamestown ferry. It's not a hot day in January, like he said it'd be if he ever left me. Dun, dun, dun. A case of gum was all he carried as he got on the Jamestown ferry. And he said that gum was all he'd ever be. You're probably my favorite trans woman. What have I done to earn this prestigious position in your mind, though? Are you just saying that because you've happened to come across me and I look interesting? Because, you might want to hang around a little while. You never know. I might have some totally reprehensible belief that you can't abide at all. Like human beings deserve housing that is well maintained and adequate for their needs, or oh, God forbid, this is a real unpopular one. Landlords are scum. There's a fucking, oh God, there's a hot take. Be scared, bro. Be real scared. Oh my God, guys, did you hear her? She sounds like a Maoist. Yes, I sure do. Who are you? My name is Phoebe, and I do vertical live streams. In theory, I do other things too, but that's the thing that you guys can tell that I do, But outside of that, I also live on a little homestead. We grow a pretty big garden, raise quite a few animals, and are working on improving the property all the time. I don't know, all of them are rude. You're not. I don't think all of them are rude. I think maybe there's like a sassy tendency among trans women online, but I think a lot of it just comes from defensiveness, and I don't know. I don't really feel that same sort of defensiveness. Maybe there was a time in my transition where I did, like maybe within the first year, but I went through a period of time where I was taking a shit ton of acid, and I had some very formative experiences while I was going through that. Of course, this was after I had transitioned, and some of the formative experiences that I had during that time led me to be way more self-assured and way less concerned, I guess, about the hatreds and bigotries of small-minded people, And it's very hard to justify to oneself being rude to people on, like, for no reason, out of nowhere, if you aren't going into the interaction with the assumption that the other person's going to be hateful. Does that make sense? Like, if you assume that other people are generally kind, you'll probably treat them with kindness. Whereas if you assume that people are generally bigoted, you'll probably treat them with a fair degree of bigotry. That's why it's good not to make assumptions about people, man. That's why it's best to just wait and see how someone feels, how they interact with you before you make a snap judgment about them. But some people, I do understand, right? I hate to be so both sides about it, but I do understand where the trans women who get this reputation for being rude, I do understand where it comes from, I think, because I really think a lot of it just comes from defensiveness. Like, maybe they've been raised their whole life, or maybe they spent a lot of their time when they first came out in a place that was very judgmental, and maybe they just haven't gotten out of that mindset, or maybe that mindset has modified their mindset for the rest of their lives. But I don't think necessarily that it's behavior that one should be expected to just put up with forever, so I understand why people call them out. It's just it's hard for me to condemn them outright as like amoral people or whatever. It's hard for me to like make moral condemnations of them because I do understand where it comes from. But yeah, I mean, I try not to be rude. I try to always be kind to people as long as they're kind to me, or as long as they're at least neutral towards me. I generally try to be kind and forgiving and generous and that kind of thing, you know? Maybe not financially generous. I can't really afford to be financially generous, but generous with my time, generous with my emotional availability. Although honestly, the best way to get me to be generous with my time is to be like, hey, I need to call you, and then, you know, let me get to a point where I can call you, and then, because dude, I'm the type of person that I might take forever to respond to your DM, but if you text me saying, hey, I need to call you, or hey, I want to set up a call sometime, I am way more likely to respond to that, so we can do that, because I feel like you can do what would take 2 weeks of texting, you can say in 3 hours on a phone call. And I'm perfectly willing to be on a phone call for 3 fucking hours if it gets to the bottom of whatever's being discussed. I'm thinking about doing a busking stream. Because I can play covers of copyrighted music, and I won't make any ad revenue or anything like that on the stream, but I can make super chats. I could, you know, have that as an aspect. I wonder. Pronouns, she, her, hers. Off it goes. You ever just have to like lean in to make sure that's not someone you know? Yeah. Me neither. No, dude, I'm blind as a bat, so if I think I see like a familiar face or something in chat, I always have to get up real close and be like, what am I looking at? Fuck. What can I say? My glasses are old. Very, very old. God, I'll be so glad to be able to get new glasses at some point. That's the dream. That's when I will know that I have reached success. You took acid, I take shrooms. I mean, I've taken a shit ton of acid. I've taken enough acid that most people think I'm a bullshitter when it comes to my acid consumption. I've taken enough acid to need to lie about the amount of acid I've taken to make it sound realistic to people who have never been around enough acid to think that that's even possible, you know? So, not all at once, mind you. I took a bunch of acid over the course of like 9 months. During any one of those trips, I never took more than 5 hits, but I asked one of my plugs, or it came up actually incidentally a couple of years later after that kind of 9-month period. It came up when I was hanging out with him and a mutual friend of ours, and that mutual friend asked my plug, was like, how much did you sell her? And he told us, he was like, well, you know, I had a sheet back then, and of that sheet, I think I had 3 tabs, you had like 4, talking to this mutual friend, and looking at me, and he looked at me and he was like, and you ended up getting the rest over the course of like months. And I was like, yeah, that sounds right. We did the math. That would have been over 92 hits, I think, with whatever the numbers we landed on for what they took and what he had sold to other people. And I ended up buying the fucking rest of that sheet, which tracks because I spent a pretty absurd amount of money on acid over the course of that year. Controversy with a K has arrived. Nice. Did you have a tolerance though? So the wonderful thing about acid is that if you wait, say you wait one day, so a full 48 hours between the time you take and the time you take again, right? Or drop. It's the other common nomenclature. But say you space it 48 hours between the time you drop, you will probably not have that much of an effect the next time, on that second go round, but you'll have something. But if you wait 72 hours, then you'll get a little bit more. And if you wait 96 hours, then you are guaranteed to trip every bit as hard as you did the first time, because acid has a very, 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 very quick turnaround time in terms of your body's ability to get over its tolerance of the substance. It's a very strange drug, right? Because with cannabis, it takes you a while to build a tolerance, right? If you only ever smoke a joint like every other day, then you will pretty much always get super fucking baked. Eventually you'll start to build up sort of a tolerance, and in like 10 years of doing that, you'll probably have to smoke 2 joints every other day to get that same level of high. But with acid, if you did that like twice in a row, on the third time you tried to drop, you just wouldn't get anything, because that tolerance builds up. It's like it builds up over the course of 48 hours after you drop, and then it has a very, very, very quick drop off time. So it's like it builds for 48 hours and then drops off over the course of 24 hours, and then by the time you're 96 hours later, you can drop again. And so that was the spacing that I employed usually. Now, there were several times when I dropped way sooner than I should have, necessarily, and as a result didn't get nearly as good an effect from it. But usually I tried to space it out. Like if I dropped at like 9 p.m. Monday, I would try not to drop again until like 9 p.m. Thursday at the earliest, but usually more like 9 p.m. Friday, I'll burn my flag when every redneck Confederate in this country burns their fucking flag. You just fart? No. I would admit if I did, but no. I don't know what you heard, but it was not a fart. Not that time. It's probably the cat jumping down, honestly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Ain't no shame in my game. Women fart all the time. I just didn't right then. Incredibly manly. That is hilarious. This is the image of manliness, folks. This is the image of manliness. A person with... Let's go through all the things that make me super manly. Super long hair. Hair that goes halfway down my back. Super manly. Bangs. Known for their manliness. Butterfly print, low-cut shirt. Once again, the height of manliness. Completely bare-shaven arms. The manliest way you can be. Duh. I'm literally the image of masculinity. Now, if that wasn't as patently absurd to you as it was to me, then I think what you're dealing with are the chains of your own fucking unwillingness to express your gender in ways that haven't been authorized to you by the authority figures you value in your life. And while I pity your condition, it does not entitle you to waste my time with needless, meaningless bigotry. So let me make shit work again, because right now I can't even read the chat and it is basically useless. because it's all bans and people's comments getting held. So let's clear out most of the morons. That, what we just did, should clear out the vast majority of the idiots. And now we can try and make something like an intelligent stream out of this otherwise disastrous fucking venture so far. And the bitch of it is, I'm completely willing to debate the like gender ideology or whatever you want to call it. I'm totally willing to debate queer theory, but you got to understand two things. Number one, I'm not a moron. I understand the arguments probably a lot better than you do. And number two, you're gonna have to come up with something more original than calling me fat or calling me a faggot or whatever. You're going to have to come up with something readable, which is a pretty fucking high bar to meet these days, given that 60% of American adults read at or below a 6th grade level. But if you can manage those two things, the only other thing I ask of you is please be interesting. Please write something in the comments, or the chat, sorry, worthy of being read aloud, because that's the whole fucking point of these streams, is to have something simulating a conversation. The only way that works is if you guys are writing intelligent, original, and interesting and readable comments. Beefy Queef, you fucking villain. God damn you. Ironically, though, Beefy Queef, just those two words you typed out were more correctly written and punctuated than most of the shit that's been said in here tonight. Well, don't time out Beefy Queef. Casey probably doesn't remember Beefy Queef. Beefy Queef is a known quantity in the community. Beefy Queef is safe. They're cool. Beefy is fine. Hi, I just want to say I like what you're doing. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. If you really like it, make sure you hit that like button, because that is the best way to show YouTube that you like this. You can also hit the subscribe button and the little bell, because that will help you make sure that you get notified of these in the future, because we do them almost every day. Not every single day. Sometimes I skip a day, but almost every single day. And I'm actually working on starting to adhere to a streaming schedule, and more news on that hopefully soon. I'm going to finalize that, and I think I'll be able to stick with what I've got so far, but you know. You're okay, Casey. You're okay. You didn't know. But yeah, Beefy is cool. Beefy is funny. Beefy is a friend of the community. By the way, there's 144 people in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. It really does help. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance for the stream to get recommended in someone else's algorithm, which is another chance for the stream to become even more interesting by virtue of the chat becoming even more interactive and participatory. Which brings me to the next thing. If you want to make absolutely sure the chat that you've sent, maybe you feel like I haven't gotten the chance to read it, maybe you feel like it got lost in the morass of morons, well, there's an easy solution for you that I am happy to tell you about, and that is the Super Chat button right down right there. Yeah. Somewhere around there, right? And you hit that button and you enter your comment and you make sure that you donate enough to cover the character limit for whatever you want to say. And then I read it. It's like fucking magic, bro. And I read every single super chat, no matter how hateful, bigoted, or disagreeable it may be, unless it contains something that would literally get me banned off of YouTube to say out loud. I'll vape while I was saying that, so I clearly talk with my hands too much. But you know what? So does the sitting president. So, you know, I am just following a long and deeply held presidential tradition. How long we've been live? 25 minutes. Good old 25 minutes. 25 minutes and 113 viewers. Do 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 do. Now we're at 179. The viewers fucking range over here, though. The highest we've ever been at has been like 550, I think. Bless. That probably sounded gross. Anyway, hit the like button, please. What do we want to talk about, y'all? They're sitting 180 people strong. I know some of you have to be subscribed, so hit me with it. Come on. Surely you have questions. Surely there are things you want to talk about. Somebody who's fucked you over in your life and you need advice. Come on. I'm like Dear Ann. I don't care what you write me with. Just write me. You want a recipe for meatloaf? I got a recipe for meatloaf. You want to fucking vent about your coworkers? I'm here to listen to it and give you advice if you want it. You know, just hit me with it. I had to wait 5 minutes. I know. I'm sorry. I have to do it because there are just some people that literally, if you give them the ability to, all they will do with their ability to chat is spam the fucking chat and say retarded shit and just generally be goobers in the chat. And it's not even worth having to sift through their comments to get to the good ones. So I just eliminate their comments from ever happening by enabling subscribers mode and the timer thing, because that honestly stops 90% of it. Phoebe's opinion on rap music and what Casey can do to save it. I don't think rap music needs saved. I think rap music is in its heyday, honestly. One of its many heydays. I think rap music is a transformative genre that has started to affect the way every other genre sounds. Every other genre of music being produced right now is taking cues from rap music, from folk music to pop to punk. There are all sorts of genres right now that are taking cues in minor ways and major ways from rap music. And it's kind of interesting, right? Because rap as a musical movement kind of grew out of the practice of sampling other songs and turning them into new songs, making something new out of them. And then it grew its own unique sound from that kind of cobbled together sort of musical tradition. So yeah, I've got an immense level of respect for rap music. I think it's an incredibly interesting genre. I think it's, you know, kind of like a crowning jewel of America. Like it's one of, in my opinion, rap music is one of America's greatest accomplishments. 100%. Yeah, people are not nice. Yeah, I mean, some people are. Like Light, you've been nice, and they're like Casey is nice, and there have been people in here tonight who've been nice. You know, it's not that uncommon to find nice people, honestly. But people have the capacity to be really mean, and I really don't mind mean. What I mind is dumbassery, shit that's not readable, shit that's not original, and shit that's not interesting. If it doesn't meet those criterion, I don't really have much I can do with it. You know. How are you? I love your content. Aw, thank you. I appreciate that. Although that comment does sound suspiciously bot-like. You're probably not a bot. I'm not, I'm not accusing you, okay? I'm just saying. I say this as I mix a song. Hey, Casey, I love that you are always working on music. That is cool. You keep that level of productivity up your whole life, and you will eventually end up being a studio producer somewhere in fucking Hollywood. You keep up that level of productivity. Just Studio Ghibli movies, I believe, Light. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like anime as a television genre, but I do like Studio Ghibli movies, and I've liked some other anime style movies that I've seen. And honestly, I've liked some animes when I've sat and watched them idly, but I just don't. I'm not I'm not enraptured by them the way some people are. I'm not obsessed with the genre the way some people are. I just, if an anime happens to be on when I'm at somebody's house or we're smoking weed and they want to watch an anime while we're smoking weed or keep it on in the background while we talk, like if they go to the bathroom, I'll definitely let myself get lost in the world of that anime for a minute. But as soon as they come back, I'm fucking lighting the blunt back up and starting to pass it back with them. It's just not my thing. Now, if there's a Studio Ghibli movie on there, we might be sitting on the couch watching that shit, passing it back and forth, and neither one of us is going to get up for a bathroom break till we're unhealthily levels of needing to pee. What's your opinion on teaching gender theory in sex ed classes? I think that would probably be a good idea, right? I mean, that sounds to me on the face of it like a good idea. If we're gonna, if we're accepting, and I think it's a good idea that we do, if we're accepting the idea that it's better to teach kids and young adults about sex rather than to let them discover it through porn or something like that, then it also makes sense to me that we teach them about gender theory rather than them hearing about it on TikTok, because that's like, you realize, if you are, not saying you are, but if you, anybody listening to this out there, if you're the type of person who uh, feels like you're constantly hearing gender theory type shit that just doesn't make a lick of fucking sense to you, or you feel like the way it's being presented at the very least makes no sense, know that that is an outgrowth of TikTok. That is not like inherent to the ideas of gender theory. The ideas of gender theory make pretty cogent sense when explained in an academic way, with language designed to accommodate to the audience that is being uh, educated on the matter. It's not like, it's not rocket science. It's not like you have to fucking take a college course to be able to get it, but it is something that I think people would benefit from having at least some basic lessons in gender theory when they're going to their sex ed classes. I don't think I want to go Hollywood. I'm not saying that necessarily that's where you'd end up, but I just don't know where else. Where else do music producers end up going? What are the other big places for producers to go? You know, like, I know Hollywood as like the entertainment capital of the United States. I know New York City also has quite a bit of music production in it. I know Chicago did at one time. I don't know if it still does. Nashville obviously does. I don't know how big their rap scene is, but I want to hit the ball, but it's so far away. The struggle, bro. The struggle of a fucking stoner that is by themselves and, just a little bit too high to be motivated, but not high enough to not want to hit the bong, That is a struggle of Confucian proportions. Love your content. Keep doing what you're doing. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What's your opinion on transgender parents forcing their kids to follow in their footsteps of being transgender? That's not a real thing. That's like complete bullshit. That, like, if that has happened, that was a couple of weirdos, dude. If that has happened, that was a fucking off case, because I have known plenty of trans parents and not a single one of them has a trans kid. Okay, I correct that. One of them does. Out of like 10 other trans parents I know besides myself, one of them has a trans kid. Out of the 3 kids that trans person has, one of them ended up being trans. If you look at all the God damn it, my nose is itchy today. I'm sorry. I know that's gross. I know it looks weird, and I fucking hate it, and people are going to make fun of it, but I can't help it. It's fucking itchy, like a motherfucker. Like, I've been sitting here fucking snorting coke all night, but I haven't had coke in fucking 3 years. Ay, ay, ay. I forced my pet spider to be transgender. I don't know if that's fucked up, but he's a spider. He doesn't know. Oh, dude, I used to joke that my cat was trans all the time. But that's the thing about animals and shit. They don't understand English as far as we know. They understand words that they associate with foods and shit like that. But as far as we know, at least animals like cats and dogs, we don't, once again, as far as we know, they don't have the ability to process words the same way we do. They don't look at conversations the same way we do. They don't understand what the fuck we're saying 90% of the time. It's only when we say food or park or walk or outside or one of these sounds that they've associated with some specific activity that it gets their dander up. And there's a few other things that dogs have like learned instinctively over the centuries that we've had them to. There's other things that they've learned to understand as well, but it's mainly that kind of thing. It's like the sounds that they associate with the activities that they go on as they go about their day with their owners. Excuse me. Age 26. Yeah, there's no way that kind of pressuring happens. No, I'm pretty sure that it doesn't. Like, what is your evidence that it does? Merely thinking that a thing can happen is not evidence that it is happening. Like, man, somebody doesn't know about Team B. Somebody doesn't know about all the fucking times that... I don't know how to put this in a way that makes it maximally impactful, but you realize right now that unless you provide me with a cogent example of when that has actually happened, unless you can provide me with that happening multiple times, because once again, one excluded example doesn't prove a pattern. It proves that a couple of people were crazy. That's all it proves. It would take a number of these fucking cases for it to establish a pattern. But unless you do provide me with an example of those cases and an established pattern on the basis of it, you're basically engaging in the same fucking tactics the CIA was engaging in back when they helped the neoconservative movement justify continued and further action and proxy war against the Soviet Union at the time. Basically saying, well, they can do these things. They could do these things. They have the motivations to do these things. Not looking at the pictures. In fact, looking at the pictures and making the conclusions about the pictures based on what you believe their motivations to be, what you believe their ideology to be, and all this shit. Making up a narrative and then pointing all the evidence to that narrative. I said a one-time event. I might have said a quick time event, but I meant a one-time event. I see you have a guitar. What kind of music do you play? Folk music, punk, like folk music, punk music, folk punk, pop punk, and a little bit of everything, honestly. I play, like, there's a couple of old country songs that I know, a couple of new country songs that I know, a couple of goofy songs that I know, some Irish folk music that I know, some 80s pop, 90s pop, 2000s pop. Opinion on heterophobia. This guy, watch for the lulz, is convinced it's a threat to all his people. Heterophobia. What the fuck is heterophobia? Is this some, like, terminally online issue that I'm just not familiar with? Okay. Is it what I think it is? Is it the idea that there are queer people who hate straight people? Because if so, yes, there are. But honestly, I think for a lot of them, it's not so much hate as it is inept meaning. Like, because I've known some people like this, and they'll claim to hate straight people all day long, and then sleep with them, and be friends with them, and work alongside them, and smoke weed with them. So it's like, you know, if heterophobia exists, I would say that you are certainly more likely to be able to live around a heterophobe than you are a homophobe. Having experienced both, only one of them has ever threatened violence against me, you know? Oh, you were talking to fucking Casey. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck Casey is talking about. Man, there are some people arguing in my chat, and I don't even fucking understand a lick of what the fuck the argument is even about. Oh boy. Oh boy. He came riding in on the sunrise on a hot West Texas day. A fancy man in a fancy wagon with some fancy things to say. Looks like you folks need some water. Well, water is my game. For the small price of $100, bet you I can make it rain. Step back, non-believers, or the rain will never come. Someone get that fire burning, somebody beat the drum. He said some may think I'm crazy for making all these claims, but I swear before this day's over, folks are gonna see some rain. People on the internet are crazy? Oh, 100%. People on the internet are fucking outright insane. People on the internet are batshit and fucking, like, levels of crazy to which you and me can only aspire. May I ask how tall you are? Man, I feel like Logical is about to know everything about me. Maybe they're about to steal my identity. I hope not. But then again, I think they would regret it as soon as they tried to, like, apply for a credit card in my name. And then they figured out, like, oh, this person is in more debt than fucking Warren Buffett. No, I don't know that Warren Buffett is one of the many billionaires that operates on debt. I'm just making a, I'm making a joke. But anyway, hush! I'm like 6'1", I think. Just because you've commented on being a tall woman. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I figured. I had to make the joke. Yeah, like I said, I would be like, I think 6'1" maybe. Probably depends on what shoes I'm wearing at the time. Because I think I just passed the threshold if I've got like a decent thick pair of shoes on. But if I don't, then I'm like just over 6 feet. I have no idea why they're barking. You know what I'm going to do for you, Logical 4 Order? Welcome to the moderation team. This is not an obligation, Logical 4 Order. This is just me saying, like, hey, since you've showed up to several streams and you've showed interest in, like, sticking around in the community, here you go. Here's the ability to clean up morons from the chat. If you see somebody saying something that does not pass muster, you can delete them if you have the time and the inclination. This will also prevent you from getting banned in the many troll sweeps that happen when the chat is fucking popping off, when there's like 150 people in here or like 250 people in here, something like that. It kind of helps to have a bunch of mods in here so that way we can kind of clean things up. But it also prevents you from getting fucking banned in one of those scenarios. Ooh, somebody sent $1.99. Nice. Well, thank you for the Bible verse. I'm not going to be taking its advice, but I do appreciate the $2. That's pretty cool. My thing is, I have found Jesus Christ in my own personal philosophy, and if you listen to me long enough, you'll see his teachings scattered all throughout. I'm looking for Christ in people like yourself and other people that profess the name of Christ and the name of his church. I think that if you... Cash! God, I feel like she's just going to sit there and bark all night. Anyway, I have found Christ in my personal philosophy, and if you listen to it long enough, you'll see it littered throughout. You'll see his teachings littered throughout. I'm looking for Christ in people who profess the name of Christ. I'm looking for Christ in Christians, and I don't see a whole lot of it, When I look around at the world, I see a whole lot of fucking problems that I just feel like if Christianity, how do I put this? If Christianity was true to the things that are written in the Bible, I feel like we would not be facing a world with as many problems as it has right now. I feel like we certainly would not be facing the kinds of problems that we see right now. Because you can say one thing about, like, sure, maybe God doesn't have any culpability. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is all about free will. If that's the case, that means the Christians have to account for why their church no longer serves to meet the needs of the people, why the church no longer seeks to foster peaceful relationships, why the church no longer seeks to bring about the mission of Christ on earth as it was set out to do, right? That's what Christians are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, housing the homeless, giving to the poor. That is what a Christian is supposed to do. Christians are supposed to engage in community organizing, community uplifting, and I see so few Christians engaging in that sort of behavior, and it's at least partly responsible for how things have gotten so bad, is that we have a sizable chunk of people in this country and many other Western countries that are claiming out of one side of their mouths this religion of generosity and charity and the worship of poverty. But on the other, those same people are really worshiping at the idol of money. And ultimately, their religion just ends up bolstering things within their own personal life, ideas that they've got, narratives they want to believe. Got him. Yep. See, you're already figuring it out. You're back. What's up, Landon? Yay, logical forwarder. Now we got 2 out of 10 numbers on the mod staff. Yeah, hell yeah. I would like to thank Christians for making Jesus so damn sexy. Thank Da Vinci for making Jesus so damn sexy. Thank Da Vinci, not fucking Christians. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people do not realize that Leonardo da Vinci is the guy who really solidified Jesus as specifically an attractive white guy with the specific hair that he has and everything. Yes, correct is seen as Matthew 7:23. Following the Bible and Jesus is what will save, not the church. It's about a relationship with Jesus. Yeah, it's about a relationship with Jesus. And you would think if someone had a relationship with Jesus Christ, they would have a desire to do Jesus's works on earth to the best of their abilities. You can't feed the crowds the same way Jesus did with the loaves and the fishes. But you know what you can do? You can feed the crowds with what you have access to, which is food that could be donated by your community if your church was willing to open a food bank. Unless it has one already, in which case, hey, you're doing the Lord's work in that case. But if you don't have a food bank or a soup kitchen or something like that, then in my opinion, you're falling short of the Christian message. You're falling short of what Jesus commands of his followers. You're falling short of what I think a person with a deep personal relationship with Jesus Christ of Nazareth would do in a situation where they had this community, this group, this ability to bolster community support around supporting those of us that are less fortunate. Hey Phoebe, sorry if this sounds rude, but what made you choose to be a girl/trans? It's not that I chose to be trans, it's that I chose to come out, which is I think what you're actually probably trying to ask. I can't, as far as I know, I couldn't help that I ended up being trans. I have felt this way since as long as I can remember having any kind of feelings towards gender at all. But what made me ultimately decide to come out was a confluence of factors, but a lot of it came down to me meeting a trans person in real life and realizing that acceptance wasn't just possible, that it was more commonplace than the media ever made it out to be. and that harassment is really honestly pretty rare outside of like specific places and localities and times, you know. And obviously that didn't happen until after I'd been able to learn more about like the trans experience and what it means to be trans and the trans community and shit, queer community broadly, that I had like the language to describe my condition, if that makes sense. It sounds strange to know something's wrong, but to not have any of the words to describe it, you know? It reminds me of this. There's this line in this book called Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. I quote it all the time, not the specific line, but just the book in general, and I reference it all the time because I love it. And he talks about how a tiger will pace in its cage, and it doesn't quite have enough faculties or enough understanding to really know what it means by the question, but a question gnaws at it nonetheless. And the question is why? 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 And it thinks about it and it thinks about it. It paces endlessly, contemplating that question till the day it dies. And it knows something is wrong that whole time. It just can't place its finger on what. It knows something isn't right. It doesn't know enough to know what is wrong, but it knows that this is not what it's meant for. Pacing in that cage. That enclosure is not what it was meant to do. It never knew a savanna, so it doesn't know what it is meant for. But it knows it's not meant for that. And I feel oftentimes like before I came out as trans, or really before I started learning more about trans people, I guess, and queer people in general, I feel like before that time, I was like that tiger. I knew something was wrong. I knew how alienated I felt by the ideas of masculinity and the behaviors associated with it, the fashion associated with it, the expectations, etc. But I couldn't quite place my finger on what was wrong until I started learning terms like gender dysphoria. I knew I hated my body. I knew it felt so gross. I knew I always wished. I, I laid in bed so many nights wishing, man, I wish I'd just been born a girl. That would be so nice. It'd be so nice. It wasn't until I started learning about trans people in the queer community that I started realizing, like, wait a minute, there's a word for people like me, and we're a normal feature of fucking human society. We've been around for many, many, many years. As far as we can tell, as long as documented civilization has existed, trans people have existed, which probably means we've been around just as long as sentient human beings have been around. We're not the post-2015 development that the Republican Party would have you believe. And I guess like realizing that in tandem with like learning all of that and more, and then actually meeting a trans person in real life and being like, whoa, people are like really respectful of him. It was actually a trans man. It wasn't even a trans woman that was the first trans person I ever actually ran into. But it was actually a trans man that was the major of the prison that I worked at the time. And he was just, I don't know, he was just a little badass. Like 5'2", yoked as fuck, looked like he could beat your ass, but was also like you know, I don't know, very loud too, very intimidating. Definitely could have played like an action hero or something like that, but also had that kind and compassionate side. I don't know, really fucking cool dude. But I didn't even know he was trans for the first 2 months I was there, and then well, no, it wasn't 2 months, it was 2 weeks. What am I saying? For the first 2 weeks I was there, I didn't know he was trans, and then it came up in a conversation with somebody in a tower in one of the housing units, and I was like, wait a minute, what? What? That's so cool. And I kind of played it off at the time, but I was like, whoa, holy shit. And I guess it also reaffirmed my, what I had always wondered about, like, does hormone therapy really work? How much of a change does it actually induce? Because at the time, it was still pretty hard to find articles about trans people that weren't kind of implicitly biased against trans people or meant to make us look like a weird oddity, right? So seeing someone who passed incredibly well like that was like really, really reassuring for me. Not that I think I passed that well, But I do think, like, once I start hormones again and after I lose some more weight, which, by the way, I found out today, I have lost some weight, actually. The last time I weighed myself was probably this time last year. I weighed 346. I weighed myself earlier today, and I only weigh 306. So instead of 346, it's now 306. So that's 40 pounds gone. That's not much, but that's cool, you know? That's almost a pound a week, which is pretty nice. Dude, I love how people will tell you to people will act like they're just worried about your health and tell you all kinds of fucking shit about how you're fat and all this other shit. But then when you tell them you've actually lost some weight and that means you're probably pointed on a better direction, then the hate just changes. Then it's that this is why you just have to learn to be comfortable with yourself, which I am, which is why I can look at these from this like detached kind of point of view and be like aloof above the fray, you know. But that's why you have to learn to be confident in yourself and self-assured, because you can literally never, and you will never in your entire life do a single thing that will please everybody. You can try your entire motherfucking life to please as much as you can people please with every action you take, and some people will literally hate you on the basis of that alone. There are people who will consider you a pathetic failure just on that basis alone. So even if you try, so it's just like a pointless fucking errand. You know, that's why the best policy that you could possibly pursue when it comes to your conduct is to be yourself. As long as being yourself doesn't involve being violent or hateful in some way, in which case, maybe learn to be better. And then be yourself. Everybody's getting timed out. World unknown. What are you doing? Casey, chill out. You're okay. No, I don't know. I'm sure they deserved it, but just everybody getting gone. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have timed out Luke personally or the other person. But do I like Trump or the other or the lady? Neither. Is neither an option? Can I say neither? I'm tired of motherfuckers saying the same shit repeatedly. I know, Casey, but some of it has to be replied to multiple times. It's like the sad fact about talking politics is that as long as one figure remains in the news, you kind of got to talk about them endlessly. You've got to relitigate the same points and find ways to uh, find. You basically have to find ways to remanufacture the talking points you've already made about that person and make them sound new and cover new angles and like that's why I listen to a podcast called Onion Nuggets. I listen to them quite a bit. And if you listen to them talk about the news and shit, especially like a few months ago, it's just like there's this sense of fatigue about the fact that when it comes to Trump, and I think they probably still feel this way, although it's become more interesting with all the Musk shit. But when it comes to Trump, they've got this like real kind of like Trump fatigue syndrome, and I completely understand why. Because at this point, they've been talking about the dude for like 8 fucking years, and so it's just like they've literally picked every ounce of meat off of that skeleton that they can. It's desiccated, it's dry. The only fucking soft thing left on it is cartilage, and that is starting to crust up and dry over, you know. And for me, I mean, the Trump corpse is still pretty fresh, you know, like the metaphorical, you know, like embodiment that is the subject of Trump. I know you're talking about the chat. I'm just saying, like, that's what I'm talking about the chat too. I'm saying you have to respond to these people, even if they're making a point that's been made before, because if you don't, then you're not talking about the big shit at the moment. You're not talking about the big deal. You're not talking about the big thing in the news. Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Month. Thank you so much. Following Trump and Musk breakup tweets. I haven't been following the tweets, no, but I have been following some of the fucking exchanges. I know that Musk is now talking about how how Donald is in the, how basically Trump is in the Epstein files and shit, which I thought was just like an open secret. I thought, like, we knew that. There's fucking like pictures of them together. There's like a recording of Epstein talking about how they're best buddies, and he had fucking deep access to the campaign and to the office of president as like when Trump was in office. So it's just absurd to me that we would think he wasn't on the fucking flight, or on the flights. Sorry, it's absurd to me to think that he wouldn't be on those rosters. I think Elon Musk knows that too. I think he's known that for a long time, and I think any intelligent person will realize that means that Elon Musk is every bit as fucking culpable and guilty as Trump is, because that means literally this is one of those situations where a deep moral evil is being claimed of one side by the other side, but the side that's claiming that great moral evil is implicated in it because the only way that they know about it is because basically you know that they've known about it for a long time and they chose to put up with it. So it's like it cheapens the accusation. It cheapens the fucking call out. It cheapens it because it makes it so obvious that it's just a cudgel, that Elon Musk doesn't actually give a shit about the fact that Trump is on the Epstein files, because Musk is on the fucking Epstein files, bro. Musk was fucking best buddies with Ghislaine Maxwell. So it's like, it's literally a call out it's a cudgel in the form of a call out, and it's about as easy to see through and paper thin as it can be because it's made by a dude who's just as in the files as the dude he's accusing, who is also in the files. So it's two fucking billionaire, scummy fucking probably did untoward things with possibly underage people at some point in the past, billionaires, right? It's those two fucking dudes, the biggest two egos in America, duking it out for control of the MAGAs. They're all on it. Clinton lived there. From what I understand, yeah. I mean, yeah, like Epstein was super fucking close with the Clintons. But dude, if anybody out there, especially a Democrat, honestly, like if you are a Democratic voter and you don't see the fucking writing on the wall when it comes to Hillary and Bill Clinton, you're just retarded at this point. I don't think that a lot of the shit that was said about them back in the 90s is necessarily true. I don't think that, I don't think Bill Clinton was shipping drugs or anything like that. But I do think that Hillary has been involved in some real nasty business. I think Hillary carries herself like a soulless vampire that would sell this entire fucking planet to an alien race for control over some lands and a fiefdom on their home planet. And it does, I really do think it does the leftist movement and the progressive movement no fucking favors to continue to ennoble her position in politics by acting like she's a fucking respectable figure within the party. She's not. She's a snake. He has a history of calling his enemies pedos. It just happens to be true this time. Yeah, I mean, that's the fucking thing. Elon Musk is known for this kind of shit, and honestly, a lot of right-wing people are. That's one of the many reasons why the accusation of pedophile has lost a lot of its fucking power anymore, is because people have started throwing it around for every goddamn thing. Now, in this case, like you said, it's probably true, right? It may well be true. But in a lot of cases, people just throw it around out of fucking nowhere and for no reason, simply because they know that that's like the ultimate unforgivable sin. Listening, Ballsack, if I remember correctly, you're originally from the DFF community, which makes me think you're probably originally from the DP community. If you remember, Brett Keane used to do the same fucking thing. Brett Keane used to engage in the same kind of fucking behavior. So it's a well-known aspect of the right-wing playbook to get backed into a corner and start screaming your head off about your opponent being some kind of fucked up pedophile or some shit. Hillary is just as much as a dictator. The 2016 election was doomed. I mean, yeah, I think the 2016 election was doomed to go Trump, yeah, because they ran fucking Clinton when Bernie was also running that year and was made to bend the knee to Hillary Clinton rather than fucking... I honestly, you know what? I'm just going to say it. If Bernie Sanders had ran as an independent that year, he would have split the Democratic vote, yes, but he also would have attracted so many people that hadn't voted in fucking years. So many people that hadn't voted in fucking years. He would have just had to do the campaigning and get out there and get people aware that he's going independent. The fuck these people, they didn't nominate me when we all know that I should be the nominee. So we're going independent. Fuck these people. Here's how you get like your independent registration and all this shit. I think he could have fucking made a really good run for it. And I think he possibly could have won out of both the other parties. Because think about it. Let's say Bernie ran as an independent and he got, say, half the eligible but non-participatory voters. Well, if he did that last year, he would have gotten 35% of the vote. 35 fucking percent, not 35% of the vote. He would have gotten let's see, there was 35% of eligible voters who didn't vote last year, so that would, 35 divided by 2 would be 17.5, I believe. And so he would have gotten 17.5% of the, like national votes in general, right? And then let's say he splits the fucking Democratic Party in half and does the same thing with them, gets at least half of them, then we're talking about like 35% now. And now we're talking about enough of a fucking, a sizable enough majority of people voting that way to where they really do stand a really good chance of overpowering the Republican in terms of just sheer votes. That could have happened. Even if they did split the fucking Democratic Party. People just fucking forget that deactivated voters exist. People completely forget that they exist. People have completely discounted them, and that's why they're deactivated. That's why they don't make a fucking effort for it. That's why they don't show up in force for it. Because the politicians who would need to lay out a vision for them to come out and do it don't do that. Also, I heard something interesting the other day from a former White House employee that Hillary, as her stay as First Lady, laid ground rules to staffers to not look her in the eyes. That is also in a Bob Woodward book, I believe. I believe that's one of the things that's discussed in a Bob Woodward book about Hillary Clinton's tenure as First Lady. But I may be thinking of a different author in a different book. What kind of vape is that? This is a Hidden Hills 50 bar lemon cake dough. He was done so dirty by the Democratic Party. Oh my god, Bernie was fucking railroaded by the Democratic Party, dude. He was destroyed by the fucking Democratic Party. For no good reason, too. Because he was too socialist. Too socialist for the party that had been going around fucking copping all his policies for the last 6 months. Too socialist for the party that had been courting socialists for the last 4 years. Too socialist for the... And it's just retarded, dude. The fact that they fucking scuttled him, despite the clear... Like, all of their polling said that Bernie wins against Trump, Hillary loses against Trump, and they proceeded with her anyway. They're at the end. It's just disgusting to think about. And then I think about the fact that Hillary Clinton literally funded Donald Trump's first campaign because she believed he would be the easiest candidate to defeat. She believed that if his campaign got enough funding, it would probably be the natural. It's funny because she was right and wrong, right? She was right partly because part of what she predicted was that he would be the natural outcome if his campaign was well funded, that he would be the nominee, that everybody else would be less interesting in comparison to him. And she was right about that. Where she was wrong is the idea that the American people would never pick Donald Trump to be their president. And Hillary Clinton debated like that was the mindset of the American people. She debated like she had never talked to an American before. Because it had probably years at that point since she had talked to an American, you know? A working class American, sorry. I'm sure she cavorts all the time with American billionaires and vampire elite motherfuckers, but when it comes to average working class people, I don't think Hillary Clinton has had a meaningful conversation with a working class person in America in 30 fucking years. Where do you think American politics might be headed in the coming years? I've heard people say that civil war might happen. I will tell you this much. People have been saying civil war is right around the corner since I was fucking like 14 or 15, bro. That has been a fucking thing for a long time, and do I think it's likely? No, not particularly. Not at this point, because things are not set up like they were when we had the first Civil War. When America went through the first Civil War, states for the most part maintained their own militias and shit, and and America didn't maintain a standing army, as far as I know. America had to raise an army specifically to go fight the Civil War after the Battle of Bull Run. I mean, they had to obviously muster a fucking force to fight the Battle of Bull Run, and then muster an army to go fight the rest of the Civil War. If I have to smoke a Dutch with you, I might as well sip red. What the fuck's going on? Games and Dutch Masters exist, though. I feel like Switchers and Woods are a bit too strong. For what? It depends on the use. It depends on the use. Electoral College in this case. What are y'all talking about? I think Bernie could have won the Electoral College even if he ran as an independent, bro. I like, ultimately, the Electoral College is supposed to be a reflection of the electors. And I think that if the Democratic Party had, well, you know, here's a fucked up thing, right? Here's the fucked up thing. Even if Bernie ran as an independent, what would have happened? Here's something I wonder, right? What would have happened if Bernie, right? What would have happened if Bernie got the most votes out of any of the three candidates? What would have been three candidates that year? Let's say Bernie ran as an independent. What if he had gotten the most votes out of any of the three candidates, but somehow, mysteriously, all the electoral votes were split between Clinton and Trump? What would that have created, like some kind of constitutional crisis? Like, do you think the fucking Senate or House would have gotten in a tizzy about that one? What would have to be done in a situation like that? Like, is there any responsibility for electoral voters to vote in accordance with the wishes of the people? Is there a requirement for them to do that? Because if not, I feel like a lot of people in that position would have still voted fucking Hillary just to spite him. Last decade has made me so grateful to be Canadian. Holy crap, yeah, ain't no kidding. What if Bernie versus Trump, Russian bare knuckle? Bernie would probably win, honestly. Bernie is a pretty fit guy. As far as I know, he still exercises and shit. He's, obviously older than Trump as far as I know, but very spry old man, There's a very famous video of Bernie running somewhere, running through an airport or some shit. He's got good form, so I think honestly, in a fucking Russian bare knuckle, I'm pretty sure Bernie takes that between him and Trump. I really believe that if I were to be the dictator of the U.S., I would end all of our problems. Oh my goodness. I have trouble focusing on your mouth. Your chin does a lot of talking. Yeah, that's true. Do you not keep your head still when you're thinking about a topic, or is that just we talk? What? Huh? I really believe that. Yeah, I feel like everybody that does politics and political discussion probably thinks the same way. Like, I also think that if I were the dictator of the United States, I would fix all of our problems overnight, bro. I would start the process of fixing every problem in the United States overnight. Just listen to all my edicts and we'll be fine, Meanwhile, Trump plays golf all day and eats McDonald's. Yeah. I mean, honestly, in that way, he's not all that dissimilar from the last dude who was in there, who also played golf quite a bit and ate quite a bit of fucking ice cream, Different fast food, different caloric addiction, but still. It's my ideology. I call it Jacobism. Man, who's gonna tell him? Who's gonna tell him that Jacobism is taken? Well, maybe you can still call yourself Jacobists. You just can't call yourself Jacobites. You'd probably be better than Trump. I mean, most people probably would be, honestly, most working class people. That's the thing. I genuinely think if America could get a working class president, or a president that had ever been working class, and that had some loyalty still to people from that area and that social strata, I do think that we could get a lot of change happen here in America, but god damn if it's not hard getting from the point we're at now to the point that would be. Why are you bouncing? Because it's fun. Bounce, 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 bounce. I would choose a homeless person over this. Yeah. Dude, I was homeless at one time. Throw my ass 2 years ago in there. Just a mildly off-left regime. Just mildly. Just a little bit authoritarian left. We're just gonna fucking, we're gonna deal with the worst of the bigots, in the way that one deals with problems like that. And then we're gonna, we're gonna redistribute some wealth. We're not gonna redistribute all of it, okay? We're gonna let people fucking, I don't know, dude. I'm down, honestly, for a mildly off-left regime. Because we're seeing a downright off-right regime right now, and it's pretty shitty. And I don't know about you, but I would love to see what off-left would look like. Like, we're getting housing reform, whether you like it or not, god damn it. And then people end up loving it, and they protect it forever. Would you, good question. You support how authoritarian would you go? Also, would you restructure the economy? How authoritarian would I go? I would not want to go very authoritarian. I think a lot of things can be achieved with incentives, but I do think that there are some things that are just going to have to be done, and I want them to be done through instruments of law, but ultimately, there's something that any anarchist will tell you, and that I'm happy to admit, about current politics, and that's that any sort of instrument, any sort of legal instrument is ultimately enforced by a tacit threat of violence, an implicit threat of violence, right? The idea being, if you violate this court order, there's a sheriff that's going to show up and fine you for violating that court order. And if you don't pay that fine, eventually there will be a bench warrant issued for your arrest, and that sheriff might come back. And that sheriff does come back, and you don't want to go with him, then he'll take you to the ground and he'll fight with you. And if you continue fighting, he'll eventually have to kill you. He'll eventually find a justification to end your life, all over the matter of you not wanting to pay the fine or whatever, right? And that's ultimately the enforcing thing behind any sort of legal instrument. But that's just something that we have to cope with, as long as we're going to have a society that is based on the idea of government by human beings, for human beings and shit, until we figure out a way to live without systems of until we figure out a way to live peacefully and harmoniously with our surroundings in a world without enforced regulations. We have to have someone who enforces the regulations. And as long as that remains the case, because I don't believe we're at the point where we can live without regulations just yet, and as long as that remains the case, which it probably will for the next few hundred years, you need to have reasonable and intelligent regulations and laws in regards to how taxes are spent, how they're collected, how land is used, and things like that. And if we're going to accept the premise that violence is required as an aspect of just maintaining our current fucked up society, then I see no reason why it would be less noble to use that same implicit threat of violence to build a better society, to build a more equitable society. As long as freedom of thought is allowed, peace will never be achieved. I don't agree at all. I think the main reason peace hasn't been achieved is because warmongers have a lot to fucking benefit from the deaths of people like you and me. People who own stocks in war companies and war profiteers, they have a lot to fucking benefit. They stand to benefit quite a bit from having wars and strife and arguments go on forever and ever and ever and ever. Once a one-party system is imposed upon people, I just don't agree. I couldn't agree. I couldn't disagree more. I think an effective left-wing party that actually brings to bear real fucking change for the American people, I think that they would functionally rule the country as a one-party fucking state for probably 20 years before they briefly returned to a conservative party for maybe 4, maybe 8 years, and then went back to another leftist party for another 20. Like, I think that if America could get a few fucking presidents and like 2 fucking presidents in there that were both hardcore lefties or even hardcore progressives, I think we could see a meteoric change in the way that this country is ran and the way that this country prioritizes things. It's just getting to that point. That's the bitch of it, right? War was always profitable. Always, even in the frickin' Bronze Age, that was a great way to get slaves. I mean, yeah, war has always been profitable. But, listen to what Henry Kissinger said when he talked about dreaming of a global interdependence. You know, a new global peace built on a system of interdependence. We are facing a world where we could make that a reality. We are facing a world where we could negotiate instead of fight. We could come to peaceful resolutions for the problems that we need to fix. There's no reason at this point. We've explored every fucking corner of this planet, and we figured out how to maximally fucking exploit it. In fact, we've figured out how to exploit it to a degree that's pretty absurd, and we need to cut as much of the fat out of that process as we can so that we're not taking so much out of the planet, so that we're not manipulating the planet so thoroughly, because it's having effects on our weather systems, it's having effects on our annual temperatures and shit. It's something we need to fucking deal with. And one of the best ways we could deal with it is by further globalizing. Do you sweat butter? No. I sweat Crisco. Where's that dress from? We never really went buying clothes. Folks are passing on the stuff on granny loads. It's one of that, literally. New shoes once a year and then out to play ball so we could ruin them. Mama said that it was okay. Mama said that it was quite alright. I kind of people out of bed for the night, and it was okay. Daddy said that we were good kids, and Daddy told us never listen to the ones pointing nasty fingers and making fun, 'cause we were good kids. I know what place I'm from. I know my home. When I'm in doubt and struggling, that's where I go. An old friend could give advice when new friends only know half stories. That's why I always keep them tight and I'm okay. I didn't have nearly enough liquid in there. Oh boy. It's just like 1,000,000 degrees in here. Alright, I'm gonna get off here. I'm too fucking hot. I'm sick of fucking sitting out here just sweating. So goodbye. Go.